Welcome to Nerds Amalgamated, a podcast that covers the latest events in science, pop culture, and gaming.
I'm the professor, aspiring game developer, sci-fi aficionado, and completely and undeniably a geek trying to take over the world. I'll be breaking down the news from tech to gaming.
I am the DJ, a humble nerd, a big weeb,
and a watcher from the halls of the multiverse.
Just kidding. Anyways, I'll be breaking down all things comics to movies to anime.
Join us and stay hydrated as we quench you with witty banter, unintentionally hilarious hot takes, and trivia more fun than a night at the pub, courtesy of Nerds Amalgamated.
And welcome to another episode of Nerds Amalgamated. And we've got a special episode for you today. It's the second episode of the new year.
You're gonna do that every week, aren't you?
Oh, wait for the other. Oh, I wish. Well, there is a thing called continuity, but what the hey? How are you, Professor?
I'm fine. I'll be better once you stop counting every week.
All right.
This isn't Sesame Street.
One episode. Two episodes. I've been doing okay. I saw the second season of Arcane. That was a good season. Writing's a little bit chaotic, but yeah, it was good. It was good in the end. I was hoping for more, but yeah, it was okay.
Can you pace the toxicity?
What do you mean pace the toxicity?
Well, it's League of Legends, so everything must be toxic.
I don't know. I don't think I can pace the toxicity on this one, to be honest.
Well, don't let it lull you into a false sense of security.
So you didn't do anything in the last few days?
Nothing I'm going to talk about on the podcast.
That's fair. Anyways,
my life is a secret. It is a mystery wrapped in an enigma.
So it will take a bit of manifestation just to get the secret to unravel, huh?
Yeah, I'm like J.J. Abrams. It's a mystery that you'll never get the answer to.
Oh no, there is an answer to J.J. Abrams' mystery. It's called rapid fire stupidity. Anyways,
is it J.J. Abrams I'm thinking of?
Yeah.
Who did Lost?
Yes, the guy that did Lost. Yes, and Star Trek, okay. And Star Trek and Star Wars. Well, the recent Star Wars trilogies, the first and third. That J.J. Abrams.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, before he was known for Star Wars, he was known for making mystery shows.
Oh, yeah.
And they all ended with a mystery that never got answered.
Yeah, that's true. Which one was better, Lost or Fringe?
I haven't seen either of them.
Oh, you haven't seen either? Oh, that's fair.
I mean, I've seen parts of Lost, like an episode here.
Yeah.
I remember once my little sister, when she was very young, wanted to come into the living room and watch TV because she could hear people screaming, and screaming means they're having fun.
Really?
Yeah. She was very young.
Okay.
She didn't realize that screaming is also a thing you do when you're not on a roller coaster and you're about to be murdered.
Okay. On that note, we've got a great show for you guys. We've got the cost of making a game, how to retain your taste buds, and how did Harrison Ford got his groove back after Blade Runner or before Blade Runner.
Did you even read your own article?
Yes, I did. Anyways, so Professor, you've got a story about the...
I've got to point out here, you've been saying retain since we started talking about this science topic.
Uh-huh.
It's retrain. You can't read either.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think it's dyslexia getting to me. I'm falling apart as you know it.
Anyway, the gaming topic.
Uh-huh.
Now that we're finally getting to it. I found an article from Bloomberg about games becoming more expensive to make. And they point out that between Uncharted 2 in 2009, which cost $20 million, and Last of Us Part 2, which came out in 2020 and cost $220 million. That's not the only example, but there's a massive increase in the cost to make a game. And you know what? I'm read through this article and I think it's a bit silly. I think it's going to encourage people to think that the money's being wasted in a place that it is. the core thesis of the article seems to be that the money's being wasted on labor, and it includes the example that there are people who can't work because there's something going on that is preventing them from working, so they're just sitting around doing nothing. So, for example, they need to wait for something to be finished before they can begin. It's really just a failure of management, not a failure of the labor. I reckon that it's a failure of the management because good management would have multiple projects going at one time and would have the organization set up in a way that there wasn't any blocking. I don't remember the word business types used to talk about it, but blocking events.
Wait, what do you mean blocking events? As in, like,
Well, like if you were the artist for a game and you had to wait until the design was completed to begin doing the art. That's not a real case because you can begin doing the art anyway. But if you had to wait for someone to finish designing the level and then hand it to you so you could begin painting the walls, that would be a blocking event.
okay.
So I think if any of that's happening, it's a failure to parallelize and a failure to plan. And I also don't think it's just gaming where this sort of thing tends to happen. I think it happens across all industries.
Oh
I'd
yeah,
be
yeah.
interested to know if it happens more in gaming, but like indie developers can't afford to sit there waiting for one person to finish part of their job before the next person starts. They need to be indie developers don't have the resources for that. They need to be working on their game 24/7. So if indie games can do it, I don't see why big companies can't.
I think the reason why we're seeing a big uptake in the cost of games to make is also the willy-nilly of hiring a lot more people to in teams. Like you look at a couple of the upcoming games like Helldivers and Stardew Valley and
Upcoming
Minecraft. Well, not really.
Helldivers has been out for a year. Stardew Valley is coming up on close to 10 years.
Okay, okay.
That's not
The,
the word you're looking for.
That's true. Okay, fair enough. Let me rewind that back. If you look at the recent games that have been out for a while, okay, those teams are like 100 people, one person. Like, and you look at like teams like The Last of Us, for example. How many people were there on that game alone? Like 200 people or something like that, or
Yeah,
a lot.
well, hundreds of people work on games like Red Dead Redemption or The
Mm,
Last of Us too. The other main point of the article
mm.
is that it takes longer to make games now. That Naughty Dog in particular pumped out Uncharted games every 2 years and then took 4 years between Uncharted 4 and The Last of Us Part 2.
Here's I just asked Google about how many people were in The Last of Us Part 2 development. Here's a frightening statistic for you. Approximately 2,100 people developed The Last of Us Part 2 over more than 5 years, led by a 350-person team at Naughty Dog.
Is that from the Google AI?
No, this is from the Google search page
Yeah, so
alone.
what's the actual source?
I just typed up, they said this was from Wikipedia.
Okay, because 2,000 people sounds like too many. It sounds like there's a crossed wire somewhere, and it's saying it's picking up the 2,000 people from somewhere else. Because when you actually look at the credits for these sorts of games, they don't have 2,000 names in them.
Yeah.
And a quick skim through the article, the wiki page, I don't actually see the number 2,000.
It's at the top on the first line.
Oh, okay. I scrolled right past that. Yeah, like 350 people is more than most games. It's about the number that I've heard cited for other massive games. 2,100 is so far through the roof that I'm not sure I trust that number. It's also not cited there,
Yeah,
so I don't know where it's come from.
but I also think now that you mentioned the whole large number of people, the other reason in with the whole like it takes longer. I reckon this may sound a bit of a hot take because some of these games were made during the COVID times as well. Hence, there was a lot of people
Yeah,
were needed.
well, Last of Us Part 2 came out in June 2020, so only the last few months of development were influenced by COVID. But games are taking longer to make as well because they're leaning into open worlds. It's been a long time since I've played a AAA linear game. I know they exist, like The Last of Us is fairly linear, but I haven't personally played a AAA linear game in a few years actually.
I mean, ever since the success of like Skyrim and the Witcher series as well, I would say Warcraft as well. The whole idea of open world, non-linear type games have become a staple at this point.
Yeah,
Like look at God of War for example. Back it used to be a linear game, but that game came out I think a few years after but the 2018 version that came a few years after The Witcher, if I recall, like the latest Witcher, Witcher 3.
okay.
Yeah, 2015, and yeah, and that's how and that became very successful. And now every other game wants to have that open. And you're right. Now every other game wants to have that open world feel, like Cyberpunk, for example.
And not every game needs to have an open world. One of the big things of an open world is that it makes pacing a lot harder, which is notorious in Bethesda games especially.
Hmm.
Skyrim, the world is ending, you must stop the dragons from destroying the world. And you can just bugger off and do what you want for however long you want. Fallout 4,
Hmm.
your son is missing, you must save him. But take your time, go explore.
So there's no sense of urgency.
Well, story-wise there is, gameplay-wise there isn't. Like, just to compare, the original Fallout was open, and it had a hard time limit. You had 100 days to find the water chip and save your vault.
I think the other reason why they make open world games more open world games is because of the fact that people need to be entertained as much as they can, hence the open world element to it.
I think it's a bit of two things. I think there's trend chasing.
Hmm.
There's been a few successful open world games, so now everything must be open.
Yeah.
And I think it's also gamers don't know what they want. They know what they don't want, but they don't know what they want, which sounds confusing. But if you ask a gamer how long they want a game to be, they will gravitate towards the longer games. If you look at the statistics for how long they actually play the game for, there are very few games that people play for more than a few hours.
And the longer the game is, the more expensive it is to make now as well.
Yeah.
Although here's an interesting here's an interesting thing though. You reckon with the advent of live servicing, you reckon that's going to be an interesting model in terms
Oh
of
no,
making?
live service is worse.
Hmm.
Live service is predicated on locking you in to playing one particular game for the rest of your life and sucking every dollar they can out of you that way.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But then there's always I agree with you then in terms of the financial incentive. But then it's always the story as well. Like, oh, if you pay more money just to continue this story, like how we saw with the expansions at for example, what's a good one? Oh yeah, Suicide Squad and Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, for example. How they've introduced more characters to and evolved the story.
Yeah, well, back in the day, I don't know what Suicide Squad's model was. I
Hmm.
just know that it flopped.
Yeah. Oh
But
yeah.
back in the day, if you wanted more story from a game, you'd either get an expansion pack, which would add in anything from horse armor, which was like the one of the earliest DLCs, mostly cosmetic DLCs, or like horse armor was really something that should have been in the base game and not a DLC.
Hmm.
Or you'd get expansions that add in new regions or new missions. Like, to compare that to another Bethesda game, Skyrim expansions.
Oh yeah.
There's Dawnguard, which takes place almost entirely within Skyrim. And then there's, what did they call it? Dragonborn?
Yeah.
There's one where
Dragonborn.
you go to another island, which isn't part of the base game map.
Yeah, there was Hearthfire, Dragonborn, and Creation Club.
Yeah,
The-
Half-Fire and Creation Club were smaller expansions.
Hmm.
Half-Fire was about building a house, and the Creation Club stuff was basically mods that were given official blessing by Bethesda.
But yeah, I think the live service model. I think that will be a way of compensating for the higher budgets.
Yeah, because why sell a game once for $60 to $100 when you can sell it for $60 to $100 or even less than that? Some live service games are free, and then claw the rest of the money out through microtransactions. Especially with the FOMO and there are psychologists behind these teams coming up with ways to trick people into spending more money, like FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yeah.
That's why they have timed battle passes, because you think, I must have the costume. To get the costume, I must play this game for 100 hours this month. If you want the costume, you have to spend money and then also play for 100 hours to unlock it.
See, if it was a multiplayer game like a Call of Duty or a Battlefield, for example, or Apex Legends, then that would kind of make sense. But I don't know for other games, I don't know. And not to mention, like most of the money that gets eaten away eaten away at from live servicing, like where did the money go to essentially?
To paying the bills to make the game.
Oh, I mean, no, I meant like, does a bit of the money goes to the graphics side, or the bit of the money goes to the writing team, or you know?
Well, it depends what kind of content you're adding. If it's just cosmetics, then all of the budget for ongoing content will go to the graphics team. If you're adding in new quests, then you'll need to split up your ongoing content budget between graphics, design, programming, audio, the whole thing. So it really depends on what sort of content you're trying to create.
Yeah, because I've one of the lines of this article that struck me was the whole idea of graphic fidelity and how a lot of that money goes to making the game graphics look good. Though it's one part of
Yeah.
the equation why it's so expensive.
Yeah, and we're hitting a point of diminishing returns with graphics.
Although the weird thing with graphics is like one thing I've noticed as well with when it comes to the movie industry as well is the fact that the nicer the movie looks in regards with adding CGI and all these fun effects, the horrible the story is written as well, aka Marvel movies. For the longest time, the graphics look absolutely cool, like it's a graphic fest. Seeing lasers flying everywhere and all, and people punching each other and whatnot. But the story is absolutely dog shit. Like Last of Us Part 2, for example, in terms of a game that looks really good graphically. Like even the snow looks beautiful to walk on, and the rain effects are beautiful to look at. But the story is absolutely trash.
You're gonna piss off a lot of Last of Us fans with that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. I intend to. That will be a side effect. I mean, here's another one. Call of Duty Black Ops had a budget of 700 million. Apparently, a lot of
Has Call of Duty ever been about the story, though? I don't
recent.
know anyone who buys Call of Duty for the stories. They buy it for the multiplayer.
They buy it specifically for the multiplayer, but then there are always the story is what makes the person stay as well. But yeah, Call of Duty has included the whole story mode in most of its games, and they've been interesting. Like who could forget Kevin Spacey in the Call of Duty game as a villain in the story mode?
And what's your point about Kevin Spacey? Like,
Well,
you can spend $1 million getting in a big name to do voices or motion capture or whatever for your game, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad game.
yeah, but as I was saying with my earlier point about how much money people spend on it, and the story is absolutely shit. It's funny how in the game they made him look so sinister earlier in the game, and afterwards they just made him into a cartoon villain. Like we're just gonna take over the world and destroy everyone in this world.
Okay, well, I haven't played that one, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, fair enough. But this article also points out in regards to money is the how much money employees get as well for when they're working with a certain in the gaming industry, and it varies on location as well.
Well, everyone's wages vary based on location. If you live in a rich country, you're naturally going to get paid more than if you live in a poor country. It's why they outsource to India. If you live in a big city, you're going to get paid more than if you live in a small town. but you're also going to spend more on your rent.
Like here, for example, they said that each employee in the pricey city of Los Angeles could cost anywhere from 15,000 a month to 20,000 a month, a figure that includes salaries, benefits, and overhead. And they did the quick math of 100 employees, and you're estimating 15,000 a month. For each one, you're spending 18 million a year. And if you're a top gaming studio, it's bigger than that. You have 300 people, and you're estimating 20,000 a month for each one, and you're spending about 72 million a year. That's one hell of a jump. Does it mean though, being a game designer, or well, being part of the gaming industry, regardless of what occupation you're in, does it mean that your value as an employee is worth more now?
No, I don't think so.
No?
Game development has always been a labor of love, and it's always been known that game developers get paid less than people in related fields because everyone wants to make games because they think it'll be fun.
Okay.
And I think if we're going to see any change in the value of a game developer employee, it'll be from some of the unions that are starting up. I don't think the unions would have as much pull as they're getting if the value of an employee was going up.
Speaking of unions and employees, you reckon their value will decrease even further, given what we've seen with the use of AI and how they're trying to get involved into the game making side of things.
Well, what you call AI, which is really large language models, isn't all that smart. There are a lot of people who think that it can do things that it can't do. So I don't think it's going to really replace anyone yet. People have tried, but you'll note that any time in the last couple of years that someone has tried to replace staff entirely with LLMs have been an absolute failure. Like
Even
I think it was a mental health organization replaced all of their call center staff with AI.
really, that actually
Yeah,
happened.
it
No.
went badly. McDonald's and fast food places in the US were trying to replace their drive-through staff with AI. So instead of talking to a person, you order your food through an AI, and then people in the kitchen would make it and hand it out to you.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, that hasn't gone well either. So I think there's a lot of hype about AI because what it can do very well. And what it can do very well is pretend that it knows what it's doing. Really, it doesn't know what it's doing.
Yeah, yeah. So, given all these discussions that we've just had, do you reckon this trend of video games costing a lot to make, you reckon it will get higher as the years go on, or you reckon it will stay the same?
I think there's going to be a correction
Hmm.
towards lower budget games. I think games currently are at a point where they're so big and costing so much money that it's unsustainable, especially with everything going super expensive and live service. Because you can only really be part of one live service game at a time. Part of their marketing strategy is monopolizing your time so that you are more likely to spend money with them than someone else. So I think in the next couple of years, we'll see the size and budget of games go down a bit, but probably not a whole lot. They're probably also looking for ways to make things cheap. Like one thing that will theoretically make games cheaper to make is ray tracing. Now
I've
that the ray tracing hard work is being done by Nvidia and AMD, and Microsoft is actually putting in ray tracing stuff into DirectX, there will be less need to work on graphics in particular ways. I'm not a graphics expert, so I'm not entirely sure what those ways are. So I think ray tracing could actually slightly reduce the cost of doing graphics. But one way would be that you don't have to spend as much time working on the lighting of a scene. Because there are a bunch of little tricks that game developers do with lighting to make a level look good. Ray tracing can do all that automatically.
Okay, okay. Anyways, should move on to our next topic. So our next topic is that a dietitian has says taste buds can be retrained to like foods such as coriander. So, are you a fan of coriander, Professor?
I don't mind it. Like, I wouldn't go and eat a handful of it, but I don't think it tastes like soap or whatever it is that people who really don't like it think it tastes like.
So a lot of people, there is a lot of people that hate coriander. So much so to the point that there is a I hate coriander page, which that's amazing. Now, it has divided a lot of people, and according to this article, 300 people have responded to a Facebook post where they said, where one said, I could eat bunches of them, yum, and the smell. Love to find a coriander diffuser. And others hate it too, saying soap, terrible stuff, ruins a good meal. So regardless of all these comments, according to Professor Catherine Keast, the ways human experience food is a combination of an individual's taste buds, sense of smell, and genetics. And Professor Keast also said that while some people have fewer papillae, little bumps on the tongue. Thank you. Papillae, which is simplistic terms meant a less intensive food experience. Taste was also dependent on 250 to 290 functional receptors housed in the upper nose area.
Yeah, which is why food tastes crap when you're sick.
Yeah. He also says that food preferences in both children and adults was also culturally determined and dependent on exposure. But in terms of testing the receptors, he said this using broccoli as an example. He said people with very specific receptor variants, such as super tasters, would experience the vegetable as extremely bitter. Huh, interesting.
Yeah, there's also a theory I've heard that super tasters don't like spice as much because they get more of an overload from it.
Yeah. So another example he talks about in terms of taste is Vegemite. How he says in Australia, Vegemite is given to children as they're growing up, and it's a perfectly acceptable spread on toast. If you take it across US or into China or Russia or other places, they'll say, "What is this?" Even I will say that too, and I'm from Australia.
You're not Aussie enough. Hand in your citizenship.
God damn it. So, a Revelant-based accredited dietitian and nutritionist Felicity Morrill said taste buds and preferences developed in utero about 20 weeks gestation. She quotes, "The food that the mother eats influences the taste of the amniotic fluid that the baby is then swallowing, and they're getting those really early exposure to different flavors. It's not the only factor, but it does play a role in fussy eating in children, in which then rolls onto fussy eating in adulthood." She also says that it's absolutely possible for taste buds to be retrained through food preferences, though food preferences might remain.
So a fussy adult will have a fussy child who would then be a fussy adult who has a fussy child.
Yeah, the cycle continues.
Yeah.
So she says we're looking at 30 to 50 exposures before somebody learns to tolerate the food first, before they must actually learn to enjoy it. What do you reckon? That idea, taking about 30 to 50 exposures of that one thing before you can learn to tolerate it.
That seems like too many, based on my own experience. But I'm just one person, so I'm sure the actual doctors have a better idea.
I just have this thought. Can you imagine saying to someone who has who hates peanuts, for example, and you give them 30 to 50 exposures of peanuts, and they like, can you imagine how they would react after 30 to 50 exposures?
Did you say they don't like peanuts or they're allergic? I lost track.
They don't like peanuts.
Okay, good, because 30 to 50 exposures of peanuts to an allergic person would kill them.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Unless it's a micro exposure, there's actually some evidence that small exposures can retrain your immune system so you don't have an allergic reaction.
Isn't that what they do with like if you want to be immune to poisons, for example, you have to like inject yourself with like a tiniest amount of venom.
Kinda.
But so one example of this retraining your taste buds is somewhat is Mark Gould's perception in coriander tasting like soap, which was a change due to the constant exposure later in life. And he said some ways of oh, actually no, he said that that's genetic little unfortunate thing that I can't stand the taste of it. But my current partner has the love of Asian food and is given the chance to use a lot of coriander. And so here are some tips, by the way, to reach, according to Miss Morrill, into retraining your taste buds. And that is, what is your motivation? Which is, commitment is key when attempting to retrain your taste buds. Identify a driving force that can drive you. It can keep you going when it feels hard. Set up yourself for success. Check out some online recipes, read recipe reviews, and try and cook new foods in ways you know you'll enjoy and try again. Get some wins. Pick foods that you're more likely to tolerate early in the process so you feel successful in what you're doing. And finally, consistency. Ongoing exposure is important. Trying a divisive food a few times a year is not enough. A couple times a week is a good start. So, Professor, do you feel motivated to try something that you hate?
I can't think of any foods I don't like off the top of my head.
Huh. Okay. We'll think of something after this.
What about you?
I don't know.
You said you
Fuzzy-
don't like Vegemite.
Yeah, I
Well,
don't.
we've got 10 days until Australia Day. No, 8 days now.
Oh shit!
We've got 8 days to get you that 50 exposures so you like Vegemite. Otherwise, you're going to have to hand in your citizenship.
God damn it! I can picture you right now, just calling me up early in the morning. It's time for your Vegemite breakfast, TJ. Yeah, my biggest nightmare when it comes to Vegemite was the time when someone dipped a whole apple with Vegemite and make me eat it.
The hell?
I know it was different. It was a crazy time. Everyone was going nuts, and I was the sacrificial lamb. You do the math. But anyways, while we're reminiscing on on the good old days, Professor, what do you think of Harrison Ford?
I'm trying to think of a Blade Runner line, but I can't think of it.
Ah,
Like one of his. The only one I can think is like Tears in the Rain, and that doesn't really fit.
Harrison Ford as Tears in the Rain. That's just.
Well, he's old. He's going to die and be forgotten.
Oh, don't give me that black pill bullshit. Anyways, so Ridley Scott sat down with GQ magazine for a retrospective video interview and revealed that the financiers of Blade Runner originally questioned his decision to cast Harrison Ford in the lead role. Ford at the time was already casted as Han Solo in Star Wars, and was also being picked by Steven Spielberg to headline Raiders of the Lost Ark. But the financiers were they didn't pay attention to that. And Scott said, "I remember my financier saying, 'Who the fuck is Harrison Ford?' And then I said, 'You're going to find that Harry became my leading man.'" And so the director continued on by saying, "On Blade Runner, I was inventing a whole new world. I spent 5 months with a very good writer, Hampton Fancher, who had really written a play adapted from the novel Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. I read the book and felt like there were 90 stories in the first 20 pages, and it was too complex. Hampton wrote this beautiful story set in an apartment. Loved the dialogue, but I wanted to see what happens when he walked out the door."
Yeah, it's a great movie, but it's not hugely related to the book.
Hmm.
A lot of the themes are different, and the setting is completely different.
Well, that's interesting. How even though Ford was picked up for a start, he was in the ultimate high of his career, like being picked up for Indiana Jones, being picked up for Star Wars as well. You would think like, yeah, this guy can bring in the crowds. Let's have him in the movies. And then you would think that that would be the answer, but no, the financiers just went, "Who the hell? Who the hell is this guy?"
Yeah, well, he wasn't as big then as he was now.
Hmm.
Like, he was big, but maybe not a household name.
Yeah, and what was interesting is how after that movie, it was a pivotal moment in Ford's career as it was it showed that he could play complex emotionally nuanced characters from his action hero role, different, which is different from the action hero roles that you played. Like, did you notice that when you when you look at like, Indiana Jones, when you compare the roles of Indiana Jones and Blade Runner?
Yeah, quite different. One's a swashbuckling action hero. The other's a more, I don't know, I can't find the word to describe it.
Deep think I was gonna say deep thinking.
Yeah, Blade Runner is a deeper think than Indiana Jones is. It's also not as deep as the book.
Although I would have loved to see like so despite the initial skepticism, how did it affect the working relationship between Harrison Ford and the production team, including Ridley Scott? Like, can you imagine Ridley Scott? You're Harrison Ford, and Ridley Scott comes up to you and like, "Oh, my financiers said they don't know who the hell you are." That must put a strain on your relationship, wouldn't it?
Probably.
Yeah, it's what's also interesting is the fact that this anecdote, it reveals how the Hollywood talent selection process is like. And when you think about it, like, can you imagine how much Hollywood hasn't changed? And what's also interesting is the fact that in you don't see many directors championing relatively unknown actors in nowadays as well.
Well, everyone wants to make their money back.
Would here okay, I got a question for you as a Blade Runner as a Blade Runner man yourself. What makes do you reckon casting Harrison Ford in Blade Runner was the one thing that makes the movie very unique for its time?
I don't know. I can't think of any other actors from the time who I could see as Deckard.
Can you imagine Mark Hamill as a Deckard?
No, I couldn't. Especially not at the time.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's true, that's true. But yeah, as I said, this is a very interesting anecdote. In terms of when you're looking at how Harrison Ford's story became legendary in the movie industry because of that one moment acting in Blade Runner. And anyways, we'll take a small break and we'll be back with our shout outs and wacky movie. So on the 15th of January 2025, David Lynch passed away at the age of 78.
I'm going to have to go finish watching Twin Peaks.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
started a few years ago and they took it off Netflix.
Ah, damn. Yeah, he was the maverick American director who sustained a successful mainstream career while also probing the bizarre, the radical, and the experimental. On the Facebook post, it was written, "It's with deep regret that we, his family, announce the passing of the man, the artist David Lynch. We would appreciate some privacy at this moment. There's a big hole in the world now that he's no longer with us. But as he would say, keep your eye on the donut and not on the hole. It's a beautiful day with golden sunshine and blue skies all the way." He received critical acclaim for his films, which are often distinguished by a surrealist dream-like qualities. In a career spanning more than 50 years, he was awarded numerous accolades, including Golden Lion for Lifetime Achievement at the Venice Film Festival in 2006, and an Honorary Academy Award in 2019. Described as a visionary, Lynch was considered one of the most important filmmakers of his era. And I've seen some interesting trivia about him. So one, for example, in addition to excluding chapter breaks in his approved DVD releases of his movies, he hasn't recorded any audio commentary in any of his films. This is because he believes the films speak for themselves. In 2018, Oxford English Dictionary added the term Lynchian into its collection and defined it as characteristic, reminiscent, or imitated of the works of David Lynch, adding, "Lynch is noted for juxtaposing surreal or sinister elements with mundane, everyday environments, and for using compelling visual images to emphasize a dreamlike quality of mystery or menace." And yes, we all know he He was the one that made the 40th that made the June movie, the 1984 edition, and he hates it to the point that to this day he refuses to talk about the production in great detail and has refused numerous offers to work on a special edition DVD. Lynch claims
he's not gonna refuse anymore, is he?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. He claims revisiting the film would be too painful an experience to endure. And after financial disaster, and after that disastrous June movie, Lynch and Dino Laurentiis were almost ready to part company, but Lynch showed Dino the script of Blue Velvet, which he had been working on for some time, and the two combined talents to make the seminal 1986 classic. On the 16th of January 1909, Ernest Shackleton's expedition finds the magnetic South Pole. The three members of Ernest Shackleton's expedition to Antarctic, Edgeworth David, Douglas Mawson, and Alistair Mackay, raised the British flag and took a photo to commemorate the moment they thought they reached the Earth's magnetic South Pole. They had left McMurdo Sound at the sea edge of the Antarctic continent 4 months earlier. The famous trek led by Anglo-Irish Antarctic explorer Sir Shackleton was known as the Furthest South Expedition and included the first ascent of the Antarctic's Mount Erebus, along with the discovery of a passage through the daunting Beardmouth Glacier. While Shackleton was made a knight for his efforts upon his return, the expedition was, however, only regarded as a partial success owing to the fact that the stated goal of reaching the geographic South Pole was not achieved, although Shackleton fell just 97 miles short of discovering the geographic South Pole.
So close.
Yeah, so close. 16th of January 1913, Indian mathematician Srinivasan Ramanujan writes his first letter to G.H. Hardy at Cambridge, stating, without proof, various formulae involving integrals, infinite series, and continued fractions, beginning a long correspondence between the two, as well as widespread recognition of Ramanujan's results. So on the 16th of January 1913, Ramanujan wrote to G.H. Hardy, whom he knew from studying orders of infinity. Coming from an unknown mathematician, the 9 pages of mathematics made Hardy initially view Ramanujan's manuscripts as possible fraud. Hardy recognized some of his formulas, but others seemed scarcely possible to believe. After seeing Ramanujan's theorems on continued fractions on the last page of the manuscripts, Hardy said the theorems defeated him completely. I had never seen anything in the least like them before, and that they must be true, because if they were not true, no one would have the imagination to invent them. One of the colleagues, E.H. Neville, later remarked, no one who was in the mathematical circles in Cambridge at the time could forget the sensation caused by this letter. Not one theorem could have been set in the most advanced mathematical examination in the world. Wow, that's one hell of an impact to get to do that.
Yeah, Ramanujan is an incredible mathematician.
Yeah, I think there's a movie based on him as well. Anyways, on the 16th of January 2025, it's the 30th anniversary of the premiere of Star Trek Voyager. You've never seen this one, have you?
No, I've only seen the original series.
Ah, so much for continuity. So,
Oh, don't talk to me about continuity. I know how many rockets they started off with. They start off with like we have 100 torpedoes, and then they fire off like 500 throughout the show. Even before they get the torpedo replicator, there's a video on YouTube that breaks it down.
Okay. So yeah, this series aired from January 16, 1995 to the 23rd of May 2001 on UPN, with 172 episodes over 7 seasons. This was set in 24th century, when Earth is part of the United Federation of Planets. It follows the adventures of Starfleet vessel USS Voyager as it attempts to return home to the Alpha Quadrant after being stranded in the Delta Quadrant on the far side of the galaxy. This was the first Star Trek series to use CGI rather than models for exterior space shots. Babylon 5 and Sequest DSV had previously used CGI to avoid the expense of models. but the Star Trek television department continued using models because they felt they were more realistic. The first episode was called Caretaker, and it was first broadcast as a double-length episode as the first telecast of the fledgling United Paramount Network, also known as UPN. This was watched by 21.3 million people in 1995, and it won 2 Emmy Awards and launched the show into a seven-season run. This episode took 31 days to shoot and was filmed at multiple locations. The production of the episode remains one of the most expensive in TV history, reportedly costing $23 million. And most of that money went to the hairstyling more than the visual effects, because of the Janeway scenes had to be reshot after the studio requested that Janeway have a different hairstyle. And also, it was planned for the EHM to be called Dr. Zimmerman. They later decided to keep the character named the Doctor throughout the run. However, the character of the EHM program was later named Dr. Lewis Zimmerman. Certain episodes from season 1 to 2 feature the name in the closed captions for the Doctor's part. Hey, wouldn't that be a copyright thing, though?
I have no idea.
I mean, if it was like Doctor Who, for example, they call like this is the Doctor, for example.
Well, actually, you probably can't copyright the Doctor
Hmm.
because it's so generic.
Okay, fair enough. Sorry, Professor. What's our messed up moment in nerddom this time?
Well, it was one you suggested to me.
Oh yeah?
Jose Manuel Rodriguez Delgado.
Oh shit.
Yes, 4 names. You know the business is getting serious now.
Oh boy, what have we got this time?
Well, Jose invented a device called a stimoceiver. It was a radio transmitter hooked up to electrodes attached to a person's brain, from which he could then control the subject by operating his transmitter.
Ah, damn.
Yeah, apparently it was not a very well designed piece of kit and would cause infection in many of the subjects. But it could be used to stimulate emotions and control behavior. Stimulating different parts of your brain with electricity will cause you to feel different feelings.
So is it actually mind control or?
No, it's more. Actually, I don't know what it feels like to have this device used, but I guess you could say it is. Because not only can it be used to give you happy feelings when you do the thing that the operator wanted you to do, I could see becoming addictive, like those rats that they gave a heroin button to.
Oh.
He also decided to attach the stimoceiver to the motor cortex, and the patient said, "I guess, doctor, that your electricity is stronger than my will."
Oh, damn.
Yeah,
This reminds me of, you remember Command and Conquer Red Alert games?
yeah,
Remember Yuri and his
yeah.
psychic weapons?
I see the connection.
Yeah, that does reminds me of those weapons. So what made them what made them stop?
Well, he also performed the operation on mental patients, particularly patients whose disorders had resisted all previous treatment, which doesn't sound too messed up. Like, helping people who can't be helped any other way is a good thing. But what is messed up is that it can be used to mind. So it's not just a treatment for depression or epilepsy or whatever. You can give people happy feelings or bad feelings, or you can even override their motion and control their movements.
So he's basically done something that social media couldn't do.
Yeah.
But man, I thought for the longest time that mind control was just like, oh, that's just movie stuff, you know?
Yeah, well, he also did an experiment on a chimpanzee
Yeah.
where he programmed the stimoceiver to respond to a particular brain signal called a spindle by triggering the chimpanzee's amygdala. And it was noted that within hours, the chimpanzee's brain began producing fewer spindles to avoid the negative feelings.
So it basically repressed the feeling.
No, the artificial negative feelings repressed the natural activity of the chimpanzee's brain.
Oh, damn.
And the chimpanzee became quieter, less attentive, and less motivated. This all reminds me a bit of Neuralink. I had
Oh
no
boy.
idea that things similar to Neuralink existed so long ago. I'm having trouble finding dates here, but this was in the 50s to 70s. Yeah, in 1963, he did an experiment with a bull where he could stop it from charging at him by pressing a button on his stemoceiver.
That's just so messed up. Cool, but messed up.
Yeah,
I mean, thank God we haven't. Thank God it hasn't gone to human mass production. But yeah,
yeah.
that's yet yet.
Like, if they could do this 50 years ago, what can they do with a modern implementation?
Oh no! Don't give him ideas. Don't give him ideas.
Too late.
God damn it, Professor! God damn it! Anyways, on to our wacky movie, and on the 16th of January 2008, Cloverfield premiered in America. This was directed by Matt Reeves from a story of Drew Goddard. The sci-fi horror starred Mike Vogel, Jessica Lucas, and Lizzie Kaplan. This is the plot. To celebrate Rob's massive promotion, his lover Beth and friends decide to throw a massive surprise farewell party now that he's about to move to Japan. However, a deafening explosion and the arrival of an enormous scaly and gangly creature will abruptly interrupt the festivities as all hell breaks loose in New York City and the Statue of Liberty is decapitated. As the reptilian behemoth levels Manhattan, a daring dash to rescue Beth begins, while at the same time, everything is recorded through the lens of a handheld camcorder amid mayhem and destruction. In the end, where did this relentless invader come from? And above all, is there a chance of survival? As they go to investigate, an adventure deep into the streets of New York begins, as the friends are determined to rescue Rob's true love. This movie at the 2008 Saturn Awards took home top honors in the category of sci-fi film, best sci-fi film. Meanwhile, actress Lizzie Kaplan had to settle for the honor of a nomination alone in the category of best supporting actress. J.J. Abrams conceived a new monster after he and his son visited a toy store in Japan while promoting Mission Impossible 3. Explained, "We all," and I quote, "we all saw these Godzilla toys, and I thought we need our own American monster, and not like King Kong. I love King Kong. King Kong is adorable, and Godzilla is a charming monster. We love Godzilla. But I wanted something that was just insane and intense." The film was initially titled Cloverfield, changed several times throughout production, and was reverted. Matt Reeves explained that this was due to the hype caused by the teaser trailer. That excitement spread to such a degree that we suddenly couldn't use the name anymore. So we started using all these names like Slusher and Cheese. And the people always found out what we were doing. He said, Cloverfield was the government's designation for the events caused by the monster, comparing to the title to that of the real Manhattan Project, though the government did not originate it. Cloverfield Boulevard is the highway exit Abrams takes to his Santa Monica office, and which used to lead the Santa Monica Airport, which originally bore the name Cloverfield. The film was shot and edited in the cinema verite style to look like it was taped with a one-hand camera, including jump cuts similar to those in home movies. T.J. Miller, who plays HUD, has said in various interviews that he taped a third of the movie and almost half of it made it into the film. Matt Reeves described the presentation. "We wanted this to be as if you found a handycam to take out the tape and put it in the player to watch it. What you're watching is a home movie that turns into something else." Reeves explained that the pedestrians documenting the severed head of the Statue of Liberty with the camera phones were reflective of the contemporary period. According to him, Cloverfield very much speaks to the fear and anxieties of our time, how we live our lives, constantly documenting things and putting them up on YouTube, sending people through email. We felt it was very applicable to the way people feel now, and that's when iPhones came out.
Yeah, can you imagine doing that today? You just have somebody on Twitch. Yo, what is up, everybody? Today we're being eaten by a giant alien.
Imagine with the shout out to my followers. Shout out. Oh, Jesus. Oh, can you imagine TikTokers doing their dance while the monster's rampaging in the middle of New York City?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, why are you doing a stupid dance? We're getting attacked by a monster. Stop it! Oh, Jesus. The running time of the film without credits is about 80 minutes. The length of a long-running mini DV tape, a common format used in consumer camcorders. The decapitated head of the Statue of Liberty in the street is inspired by the poster for John Carpenter's Escape from New York, which depicts the head of a Statue of Liberty lying in the middle of the street. The film has no music score, and music for the end credits does not begin until 1 minute and 30 seconds after the credits start rolling. After viewing the cut of the film, Steven Spielberg suggested giving the audience a hint at the fate of the monster during the climax, which resulted in addition of a countdown overheard on the helicopter's radio and the sounding of air raid sirens to signal the forthcoming hammer down bombing. The opening party scene were filmed without music, and the guests in the background were silently pretending to talk to one another. All the music was added in post-production. Oh, that's gonna suck!
A lot of work goes into being an extra.
Uh-huh. The movie is viewed primarily from the view of Hud Platt, the character who uses the camera the most. HUD is also short for Heads Up Display, a method of overlaying information onto a view of one's surroundings, such as timestamps on video footage. That's interesting. At the closing scene credits, there is a mysterious broadcast voice. When played in reverse, the broadcasts say, "It's still alive." The Cloverfield monster had 2 minutes and 37 seconds of screen time, and producer J.J. Abrams came up with the film's last line, "I've had a good day." And on that note, that's all we have for this week. Where can they find us, Professor?
Everywhere.
Really? Including TikTok? Given what's happened lately?
Well, it's not banned in Australia yet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's true. But yes, you can find us everywhere and anywhere. Anyways, take care of yourselves, stay hydrated, and see you guys.
See you next time.